love now and
Did you follow
always.
Just tell I love her.
Love is stronger than anything.
Feel the love.
And I love you more than anything.
There's still love.
From the New York Times, I'm Anna Martin. This is Modern Love. And today, a story from Eric Darnell Pritchard about their first love. It was 1989 in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Eric was 11, and while other kids were spending their time playing pickup basketball or riding bikes or hanging out on stoops, that wasn't exactly Eric's style.
I spent a lot of time alone, and my older brother was really into sports. So he was always like trying to coax me outside to play football, and no.
Instead, Eric is what I want to call an inside kid. They liked inside things, like watching TV, mostly soap operas, and reading their mom's romance novels.
I remember specifically her Lucky Santangelo books.
Wait, I don't know who that is.
Oh, Lucky Santangelo. Anna, go back and read them. Lucky Santangelo is like the heroine of all heroines in romance novels. Lucky Santangelo's strong, and men get in the way.
Don't they always?
They do, actually.
Eric was drawn to the melodrama of Lucky Santangelo, of all those soaps, because those stories allowed them to escape and step into a private world, a world where people did all sorts of risky things for love, a world where they belonged.
I knew that I was different, and I knew that people felt that I was different, but no one really would ever say what that difference was. And so as a child, I was different in so many ways. Being bookish, being a larger kid, I wouldn't have called myself queer, but being feminine, I felt at times like people were trying to get around me. Like I lived in like a constant state of fear.
Were you lonely at the time?
Yes, I was absolutely lonely.
But then a new boy moved in right across the street, a really cute boy. A boy Eric refers to as L. When they were together, Eric felt like they were living in one of their romance novels, like the stuff they read about was finally happening to them. Eric wasn't afraid anymore. And that's when things got complicated. So, Eric, your story starts when a new family moves in across the street with a boy around your age. You call him L. What did you notice about L?
I remember he had just like a short, what we called then like a Caesar. It was just like an all-around even haircut with like a part in the front.
Gotcha.
And he had a Bart Simpson t-shirt because those were huge at the time.
Oof. Okay, so he's cool. I'm getting the sense that he's very cool.
Oh, yeah, but everyone was cooler than me. You know?
Yeah.
So he would hang out with the boys who were like really like rough and tumble, like my little brother. We had a makeshift basketball hoop in the middle of the street. It was hanging from one of the telephone poles. It was like a milk crate that they cut the bottom out of. He'd be out there with someone else, or he'd be out there by himself, just kind of doing free throws. He just fit in well with like everyone who I did not, but also seemed to be very okay on his own. So I remember seeing a lot of him by himself on his bike, eating sunflower seeds. That to me was curious, because how could it be that he both could fit in right along with everybody else, but then also kind of be like me?
So you're noticing L, clearly. Did you feel like L was noticing you too?
No, at all. At all. And I think that's why when he actually spoke to me for the first time that he did, it was just so disconcerting for me.
Let's go to the part of your essay where you talk about that first conversation.
I was sitting on the porch reading a romance novel when L turned the corner. He rode his bike over to me, standing on the bike's pedals, towering over me as I read. "You want to ride with me?" he asked. I said, Okay. Let me put this in the house as I stumbled to my feet. Minutes later, we were riding our bikes side by side. For boys like us, Black boys, the world could seem large and daunting and at the same time feel small and constricting. Mounting our bikes was a freedom ride.
After that first bike ride, did you and Elle hang out again?
Oh yeah, we hung out all the time. At first, we would ride bikes together.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I remember we would just go to the store and like pull our money together and get as much candy as we could. There was always penny candy. And we would return bottles and get the money from that. And you give them as many pennies as you had, and they would give you a brown bag filled with stuff.
As you kept hanging out, what did you pick up on about Elle? What did you see that other people might not see?
He had like a chipped tooth.
That's very charming.
Yeah. And as we were riding our bikes, I remember him smiling. It was a smile that was like joy, like super duper happy.
Oh my God, I love that.
But when we weren't together, like if I saw him out there still playing basketball with everyone else, he didn't have that same look on his face.
So it was like that smile was just for you.
It was my smile. Yeah. No, that's I never thought of it that way until just now.
Oh, that's beautiful. What else did you like about Elle?
I liked that he was sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I was sweet, and I knew that meant that like people thought that I was gay or feminine. But Elle, to me, was what I thought sweet really was, which was just someone who was really kind.
Oh.
And that he was willing to be my friend and spend as much time as he did with me was so meaningful to me, because part of me knew that there was a real risk in being my friend. Or at least I felt that's why other people didn't spend as much time with me. And the more we spent time together, I realized that the warmth of who he was, the smile, that there was something maybe about me that brings that out.
Oh, Eric, you realize that as much as you liked Elle, there was something he liked about you too.
Yeah. I felt like that I was all right. I knew that about myself, but I didn't feel that way with anybody else except for my mom and my aunt who raised me.
Mm-hmm.
Like at a certain point for me, he was my boyfriend. I don't know if he knew that, but for me, it was like, yeah, like I'm into romance novels, I'm into soaps, I'm into love. And like,
this is my boo. Yeah.
This is my boo.
Boyfriend.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I was feeling was real. And I think that the more we spent time together, the more I think it became important for me to make sure I wasn't making it up. And so I said, I like you. And he said, I like you too. And I said, no, I like you. And he's like, okay, fool, I know.
This is huge, Eric. Elle feels the same way about you. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, it meant everything to me. And it felt very real. And also still something very dreamy. You know what I mean? Like, it just...
I do.
It was both real and kind of like...
Wow, is this happening?
Yeah, like I felt like, like in the clouds, like floating.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I know that feeling. It's like you're weightless. It's really magical. Okay, so this whole time you were hanging out with Elle, it was summer break, but school was just around the corner. You were going into 5th grade. Elle was going to be in 6th.
Yeah.
So you weren't going to see as much of each other anymore.
Yeah.
And then the night before the first day of school, Elle gave you something incredibly special.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So the night before the last day of summer, he said that he wanted to give me something, and he pulled out this ring that was his mom's.
Oh my gosh. Wait, he took this from his mom?
Yeah, it was his mother's ring.
Wow.
It felt like being proposed to.
Oh.
It felt to me in many ways kind of like how I had read in books of people being proposed to or being given like, like a friendship bracelet or just something special, a locket.
Yeah.
But then it also, because I had had so much fear about things kind of like falling apart and I'd relax into that as we were heading into school, it was just another kind of like moment of just me feeling like I could let go. Everything is fine.
Secure, it sounds like.
Yeah. And it was like the things that I had begun to feel, I think with that first bike ride, just amplified.
The ring is so special too because it's kind of an acknowledgement to the world, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a physical manifestation of your connection.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing that made me feel like, oh, wow, like this is next level. I can share this.
So you woke up the next day. It's the first day of school. You and Elle walked to school together, right?
We did. And I was wearing that ring. That whole morning, I was like playing with the ring. I remember looking at it and just, waiting to see him.
Then after all that waiting, you finally see Elle at lunch. Let's go to that part of your essay.
All right. I got my lunch tray and sat down to eat, spotting Elle in the 6th grade section. I waved at him from across the room. He smiled widely, just enough to expose a chipped left incisor, and he gave me a soldier salute and sat down. I smiled and turned to my lunch. As I picked up my spork to eat, I looked at the ring on my left pinky and began to daydream of our beautiful summer together. My daydream was interrupted by the voice of a classmate, the school gossip. She was an adolescent Black Barbara Walters, full of questions. "Ooh, that's so nice," she said, pointing to the ring. "Is that your mom's ring?" "No," I said. With her, it was best to keep it short. "Whose is it? Where did you get it from?" she asked. I told her who had given it to me. "Oh, in 6th grade? That's why you waved at him. Is he your boyfriend?" "Yes," I said. "Oh, that's so sweet. Boys liking boys," she said, rolling her eyes and walking away. I smirked, thinking that she must be jealous. It never occurred to me that she might roll her eyes for any other reason.
That's kind of an intense moment. Like, you were feeling so secure going into this first day of school. You were feeling like totally sure of your connection with Elle. And then this conversation sounds like it's really destabilizing you.
Yeah, I mean, so like, my initial sort of sense was she was going to take the fact that I was in a relationship and say some stuff that was going to mess it all up. The more the day went on, the more I started worrying about how this could tailspin.
When we come back, what Eric said reaches Elle. That's next. So, Eric, the first day of school comes to a close. You'd walked to school with Elle that morning, but you didn't walk home together. Tell me why.
So after school, I went home. Well, we were going to go home, and I was waiting for him because we were going to walk home together, but he just wasn't there. So I ended up walking home by myself. And then when I got to our block, he wasn't on the stoop and, knocked on Elle's door across the street. No one answered. And I just sat on the steps and I waited.
How long did you sit there for?
It felt like forever. And about 15 minutes passed before I heard some footsteps on the other side of the house. And so I jump up and I turn around and it was him. And I smiled at him and I said, "You want to go for a ride?" But he didn't smile back at me this time. And before I could ask what was wrong, he punched me.
Oh.
Like right in my eye. I was kind of like stars. Dazed in multiple ways. Like I think like just physically, I remember like literally seeing stars. That's how hard the hit was. But also like just kind of like confused. I just said, like, why? And he started coming toward me and I felt like, oh, like that he was coming to actually help me. So even though he had hit me, I still felt like, oh, he's coming to help me up or he's coming to make sure I was okay. Maybe it was an accident. And he hit me again. And at that point, I just did the only thing I was really taught to do. Is somebody hits you, you hit the back or you run. And I was mad at that point. I was hurt, but I was also mad. So I didn't run. I hit him back. And we were in the street fighting.
How did you eventually stop fighting?
My aunt, she ran outside and she pulled us apart. And she kind of literally like dragged me. I remember like she just like yanked me and pulled me up the stairs. And I was like still swinging and I was crying. And she said, "Eric, what happened?" And I remember just saying like, I thought Elle liked me. I thought Elle liked me. She grabbed me and just like pulled me to her chest. And I just like cried and cried and cried and cried. And like, she walked me into the living room. We sat down on the couch and I just kept crying.
Oh. Did you understand why Elle hit you?
I think I wanted it to be something different. But I think a part of me had to have known. There's something that he felt that I had done to harm him in some way. It's a really difficult position to be in, to both be like feeling betrayed by that person, but then also feeling like you might have harmed them too. It's just a lot. It was a lot to carry at 11. It's a lot to carry still at 44.
I hear you. I mean, but it was never your intention to hurt Elle, right? I mean, I think that's why this is so heartbreaking, is you really, really liked Elle. You wanted to celebrate your connection. You wanted other people to witness it. You didn't know it was something he could be ashamed of.
Yeah.
What did you do with the ring, though? You still had his ring, right?
Yeah. I mean, I made the decision that I was going to return it. And so I just dropped it into the mail slot.
How did you feel as you returned it?
I really felt that if I returned it, it might prompt him in some way. Actually, I think I was still holding out hope. I felt like if I responded, in a way that kind of like said, we're done, right? That if we weren't, he might reach out in some way.
Yeah. Did you want to be done?
I didn't. No, I wanted to, still be boyfriends.
Did you see Elle again after that fight?
Yeah. So about, I would say 2 months passed. And I was sitting on the steps. I was reading a book and, a van pulled up in front of Elle's house across the street. And his mother came outside. There was a guy helping her and they were putting boxes, into the trunk of a van. And it took me a minute to realize that they were moving. And, by the time like I put that together, he was, coming down the stairs and he was going to get into the van. And we made eye contact for the first time in forever.
Wow.
But this time he was looking at me in the way that he had that very first time that we rode bikes together. And he smiled at me. And the smile was as wide as it had ever been.
Mm.
And they got in a van and they drove away. And I never saw him again.
What was in that final moment, that final smile?
I think it was an affirmation that he was not mad at me. That I was okay, that I hadn't done anything wrong. And so it felt to me like the closest thing that could happen between two 11-year-olds forgiving each other. Or I guess from his side, at least for me, I felt like it was an apology.
An apology for hitting you, an apology for causing you pain.
Yeah.
You know, now, 33 years later, if you could speak to Elle, what would you say to him?
I'd say thank you. You know, I think that having a first love, even though it ended the way that it did, I am just so grateful, like, for the moments that we did have together, for the cocoon, that safety that we had, you know, together to really just kind of be vulnerable and love each other, like each other. And I know that a lot of people don't get that. They don't get it at 11, and they don't get it. Some people don't get it at 44, right? And I'm grateful to have had it for the time that I did. And I hope that he's happy. You know, whatever it is that he is doing now, wherever he is, whoever he is, I hope that he looks upon me with the same kind of gratitude, and also with the wish that I'm happy too.
Eric, thank you so much for telling me the story of your first love.
Thank you for letting me tell my story. It's to be cherished.
Modern Love is produced by Julia Botero, Christina Josa, and Reva Goldberg, with help from Emily Lang. It's edited by our executive producer, Jen Poyant. This episode was mixed by Sophia Landman. Our show was recorded by Maddie Masiello. The Modern Love theme music is by Dan Powell. Original music by Dan Powell, Marian Lozano, Pat McCusker, and Carol Sabaro. Digital production by Mahima Chablani and Nell Gologli. The Modern Love column is edited by Daniel Jones. Mia Lee is the editor of Modern Love Projects. I'm Anna Martin. Thanks for listening.